Well, everyone, the wait is over, and we now know all of the details of the Top Thrill Dragster reimagining at Cedar Point. So, this new coaster will be called Top Thrill 2, and it won't actually be that different from the old one. The main difference is it's going to have a spike on one end, so it's going to launch forwards and then it's going to launch backwards into the spike. And the spike, by the way, is the same height as the top hat, 420 feet. So I never really believed that the spike was going to be 500 feet because realistically, it doesn't need to be 500 feet in order to make that top hat. So then after it clears the spike, it's going to launch forwards at 120 miles per hour, just like the original. And it does the same thing. It's the same layout. And I know there's probably going to be some enthusiasts online who are irritated that they didn't add a loop or a drop track or, I don't know, 15 airtime hills that go across Lake Erie. But all Cedar Point had to do was make the ride more reliable. And that's clearly what they're doing. That's clearly what their main goal is. Their main goal isn't to turn it into a completely different ride. Sure, you have the swing launch, which allows for an LSM system, which is more reliable than a hydraulic system. Honestly, I'm not an engineer, so I don't know the fine details. But it's the same ride overall. Now, I have a few notes here, and there are some interesting details that came with this coaster in terms of how Zamperla is working on it. So, Zamperla actually released the information a couple days ago. I'm not sure if there was a miscommunication on when they could release it or if an intern decided to leak it. The web page was unlisted, not meant to go public, but an intern leaked it. I'm not sure how this happened, but all the information was leaked a couple of days ago, like all the technical nitty-gritty stuff, as much as possible. Now, the main thing with Top Thrill 2 is that it's the tallest and fastest triple launch coaster. The website specifies and says it's the tallest and fastest LSM triple launch coaster, but I'm not aware of any triple launch coasters that are taller or faster. So the details of each of the three launches were revealed. The first launch is going to be 74 miles per hour, and it's going to have a rollback. It'll go back down that top hat. And what's interesting is Zamperla's website describes this as, quote, a new crowd favorite. I know a lot of people really liked getting a rollback on Top Thrill Dragster, and it was like a credit on its own in some ways. But it's interesting that they call it that. Then it will go into a second backwards launch, and it will reach a speed of 163 miles per hour, which, wait, no, I mean, that's kilometers. It's 101 miles per hour. They're not going to send you backwards at 163 miles per hour. Sorry, folks. So after that second backwards launch, it goes up the vertical spike. It's a 90-degree vertical spike, standard vertical spike. There's going to be a third launch. That will take you to the top speed of 120 miles per hour. Then it'll just do the layout as it was originally. Now, one thing I do have to say is that this is going to give some extra flair to the park skyline. That extra spike looks amazing. And as for the new color scheme, I will miss the yellow supports, but I totally get the new color scheme. I think it's more modern, more sleek looking, and it really gives the impression that this is a new ride to the public. Another thing that's different are the trains, which, as I had a feeling they would be for almost a year, are the new Lightning trains by Zamperla. These trains are almost completely different than the old Intamin trains. First of all, they have an aluminum milled chassis with no welding, so there's less parts to it, so the park saves a lot of money on maintenance and NTT testing, spends a lot less time on maintenance too, because there's less parts. These trains can also handle speeds of up to 200 kilometers per hour, which is a faster speed than Top Thrill Dragster, so totally suitable for the speed. And according to Zamperla, Cedar Fair actually approached them, and Cedar Fair saw what their new innovations were, saw the Lightning train, and actually have Zamperla's website right here. So according to Zamperla's website, quote, Cedar Fair knew about Zamperla's recent investments in roller coaster engineering and technology. when they wanted to reimagine Top Thrill Dragster, the company they met with, the company to see if its recent investments could help them bring a new experience to Cedar Point guests. That was a bit of a messy sentence. Together, Cedar Fair's corporate team, their experienced design studio, Cedar Point's team of experts, and Zamperella's roller coaster business unit worked to create a record-breaking triple launch experience on the shores of Lake Erie. And it actually goes into Zamperella's history with Cedar Fair, which will help with the Top Thrill Dragster failed coasters video I'm making. So it says, Zamperella's relationship with Cedar Fair went all the way back to the early 1990s with the first Crazy Bus ride at Knott's Berry Farm. And like I said in my past video about Top Thrill Dragster, Zamperella has a ton of family rides and flat rides. So Zamperella has been providing these rides to Cedar Fair for decades. So I know a lot of people were like, why is Cedar Fair going with Zamperella? They do have a long seasoned relationship with Zamperella, so really it's no wonder why they went with them. Now, on a bit of a more serious note, is the queue, which is still in the roller coaster track's perimeter, within the perimeter. And unfortunately, you can't talk about this ride without talking about the reason that it closed and was reimagined in the first place, and that's the 2021 accident where a piece of the original Intamin train was knocked off and hit a woman in the back of the head. It's not hard to imagine that the accident, or incident, depending on what you call it, was in fact the final straw for Cedar Fair. But the thing is, they had been dealing with this coaster's issues ever since it opened. A light breeze could shut it down, as far as I know. And when I visited the park in 2018, the ride rarely ran. I did get to ride it, but most of the time it was closed. And I'll go into further detail on why the ride had so many issues in my Failed Coasters episode on it, which I am planning. And by the way, I know a lot of people will take issue with me calling the original Top Thrill Dragster a failed coaster when it was a really good one. Roller coasters can be good, but they can fail in different ways. That's why I've made Failed Coasters episodes on the original X and the original Lightning Rod before it became a steel coaster by definition. And I'm not the only one who thinks that this coaster was a big problem for Cedar Fair. Cedar Fair's former CEO Dick Kinzel actually called this ride, quote, his dumbest decision, because of how many issues it gave. And this is from the book Dick Kinzel, which I highly recommend. It's an amazing book about Cedar Point's history, and it actually helped me make my video on the evolution of Cedar Point's coasters. So highly, highly, highly recommended. So I went off a bit there. So back to the subject of the queue. So the queue is still within the track's perimeter. However, they are adding some roofs to the queue, as far as I can tell from the animation. And it's important to keep in mind that this new lightning train, once again, has a single chassis with no welding and much less parts. So the whole issue of the flag plate that caused the incident last time isn't going to be present here, because this is a completely different design that's going to reduce the risk of anything like that happening. So as far as I can tell, this new train is going to make this coaster much less of an issue for Cedar Point. That said, we won't know how reliable this coaster is until it opens. So it's like I said in my past video, we're not going to know how good or bad it is until it opens. And I'm more than willing to give Zamperella a chance here. I think this looks very promising. And sure, I'm going to miss the old launch, and it was a really powerful launch, but that new swing launch could very well blow me away, so I'm going to keep an open mind on this one. Now, before I wrap things up, I want to talk about something that I know a lot of people are talking about today, and that's the new name, Top Thrill 2. Sure, it doesn't have the same ring to it as Top Thrill Dragster. I do think that Top Thrill Dragster was the better name. At the same time, it really makes sense. You have to keep some of that original name because the name is so iconic. You have to keep some of it in the new ride. You also have to change it too. This is exactly what Six Flags did with X. They named the new version X2. Sure, they could have named it something like Speed Machine or Fly Me to the Moon, or maybe Professor Plutonium's Rocket Machine or something like that. But roller coaster names are hardly part of the experience. And most guests do not care about the coaster's name, they care about the ride the coaster gives. So, for all I know, they could have named Valraven Bacon Sandwich with Cheese, and it still would have been a hit. So, yeah, the new name isn't like anything groundbreaking, like, oh, look at this new coaster name. It's so cool. We got letters rearranged into words that sound edgy. No, it's nothing like that. It's a rebranding of the original name that tells audiences, here's a ride that's very famous here, but it's also a newer experience. It's something new. And that actually reminds me, Holiday World in Indiana actually announced a new family boomerang called Good Gravy. And if you want to check out the announcement video, I put it in the description. It's awesome. I love how the pink track on that coaster. I don't know if this was intentional, but kind of looks like Pepto-Bismol. And so it's themed to Thanksgiving dinner, and oh, my good gravy. I ate so much. I need some Pepto. Help, I'm going to be on the toilet all night. Yeah, I know. It's supposed to be cranberry colored, but cranberry sauce is red, and this track is clearly pink. I think I know what they were going with here. Definitely going with some kind of Pepto theme. But, okay, that I've had my fun. Back to Top Thrill Dragster, or the Top Thrill 2. I think this will be a nice addition for Cedar Point. I think it's a good reimagining of the original while also keeping the spirit of the original. I might miss the hydraulic launch, but I'm going to keep an open mind with that new triple launch. It looks pretty cool. Really good. And for now, I'm going to be planning a few new videos, and eventually I do want to make a video on Top Thrill Dragster, the original, a failed coasters video, going into its history really in depth. So I'm really looking forward to that one. So stay tuned to this channel, and I will see you all next time.